Dear students, in this video I'm going to talk about various themes which are used, the popular themes that are used in the Tempest. Like in my previous video, I had spoken about loss and restoration, power, and now in this video I'm going to talk about magic, illusion, colonization. This video is precisely for class 11th and 12th are preparing for the Tempest. Let us understand how is this theme of magic involved, illusion and colonization involved and woven into the play. The Tempest is full of Prospero's magic and illusions. That's true. We know then right from the beginning, the play begins with the Prospero's magic and it ends also with the Prospero's magic. His command that Ariel send the ship safely back to Italy in Act 5, we see that he commands the ship to be taken. Although he renounces his magical art, but still he wants it to be exercised until he reaches his island and gets back his dukedom. In between, the audience watches as Prospero uses visual and oral illusion to manipulate his enemies. He uses visual illusion sometimes and sometimes his oral illusion to manipulate his enemies and expose their true selves. He wants to expose everyone. Their real color comes out when he creates an illusion. At nearly every point in the play, Prospero's magic gives him total control. He always seems to know what is going to happen next, or even to control what will happen next. He has the power in his hand. At one point, Prospero even goes so far as to say that all of life is actually an illusion that vanishes with death. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep. In the Act 4 scene, one line number somewhere around 156 uses this. Many critics see Prospero's magical powers as a metaphor for a playwright. He has this power, and like playwright uses the words to write down his script, he uses his magic. Just as Prospero uses magic to create illusion and control situation and resolve the conflicts. He was thrown out of the dukedom. He was casted out in the middle of the night in the ocean on a raft which can barely be called a boat, with nothing and his daughter along with. So in such a situation, he had a hard grudge deeply embedded in his heart. Now, the playwright does the same thing, and he uses the story to write. Is what he does is with words, he's doing it for this magic. Now, throughout the play, Prospero often lurks in the shadows behind a scene. Like a director monitoring the ocean as it unfolds, Prospero refers to his magic as art. And he literally steps into the role of a playwright when he puts on a mask for Miranda and Ferdinand. In fact, many critics take an additional step and argue that Prospero should actually be seen as a stand-in for Shakespeare himself. The Tempest was one of the last plays, we remember this, and Shakespeare wrote before he retired from the theatre. Many critics interpret the play's epilogue. This epilogue scene is very important from the 12th board class point of view. We need to understand, and this can be one of the questions we expect. And then in which Prospero asks the audience to applause that will set him free as Shakespeare's farewell to theatre. He renounces his magical art, which is symbolic as Shakespeare renouncing his displaying the dramas on the stage. So what Shakespeare was doing to words, Prospero is doing to his art of magic. He kept charming. Shakespeare charmed the audience with his dramas. Prospero charmed and resolved all the conflicts on the stage in the play with his magical art. Now we see colonization. So this is how we can say that even that playwright theme is parallel to this story. There's this colonization. During the time when the Tempest was written and first performed, both Shakespeare and his audience would have been very interested in the efforts of English and other European settlers to colonize distant lands around the globe. That was the time when Elizabethans were sent out to explore different areas, different parts and the continents of the world. And this idea had just taken birth. It had just germinated. And the Tempest explores this complex and problematic relationship between the European colonizer and a native colonized people through the relationship between Prospero and Caliban. Such a beautiful, now this particular colonization, what Caliban feels, he kept feeling that Prospero, he's a foreigner, he's an outsider because reality is Caliban was born on that place, on that island, and therefore he's a native of this island. He has the right to rule his kingdom. He is the owner. His mother was a ruler before him. Who is the outsider? The outsider, the foreigner is Prospero, who came and he overtook it from him and started ruling over this kingdom. Caliban starts hating Prospero for this very reason. And this also gives you the glimpse between what relationship was supposedly thought to be of a person of a colonizer, especially the European, and the native people of different continents which were being colonized. As such, Prospero believes that Caliban should be grateful to him for educating Caliban. This was what even was thought, like when foreigners came, when the colonizers came to India, even they felt that we are uncivilized, we are not educated. And this is what he does to Caliban, Prospero does to Caliban. Caliban lifting him out of the savagery. It simply does not occur to Prospero that he has stolen rulership of the island from Caliban. It never occurred to Prospero, he never thought about it, that he is robbing his right to rule his own place, because Prospero can't imagine Caliban as being fit to rule anything. Caliban soon realizes that Prospero views him as a second-class citizen fit only to serve. He acts as a colonizer. He feels that he can do nothing else but he can serve. That's all. That suits him better than anything else. That is what is the idea of any colonizer. Prospero views him as second-class citizen fit only to serve, and that by giving up his rulership of the island in return for his education. And what is he giving him? He's giving him the education in return of what? The authority to rule the kingdom is grabbed by him. Prospero grabs that authority. He has allowed himself to be robbed. As a result, Caliban turns bitter and violent, which only reinforces Prospero's view of him as savage. Shakespeare uses Prospero and Caliban's relationship to show how the misunderstanding between the colonizer and the colonized lead to hatred and conflict. How does it get germinated? And what is the relation between a colonized and a colonizer? So this gives kind of a window to look into the relationship between the two sides, and how it then reciprocate in the erupting hatred and conflict between the two. In addition to the relationship between the colonizer and the colonized, the Tempest also explores the fears and the opportunities that colonization creates. Exposure to new and different people leads to racism, intolerance, as seen from the as seen when Sebastian criticizes Alonso for allowing his daughter to marry an African. Is it not racism the part of this? because this is why he took the stand when Sebastian had criticized Alonso. He allowed his daughter, although his daughter Claribel was not willing to marry, but it was Alonso who was after her to marry, and he wanted her to get married to an African. Is it not racism taking place here? So even racism be the part of this. Exploration and colonization led directly to slavery and conquering of native peoples. For instance, Stefano and Trinculo both consider capturing Caliban to sell as a curiosity back at home. There's also one instance when in the scene where Trinculo and Stefano happens to meet Caliban, they immediately design that they want this creature to be sold back. When they go back to Naples, they're going to sell, and they might get any amount of money that they would demand if such a creature is being put to display. So what, according to them, is according to Stefano and Trinculo, Caliban is a product, is a creature which can be displayed and earned money. All right, so in a way, he'll be serving them. So they can sell as a curiosity back at home, while Stefano eventually begins to see himself as a potential king of the island. And even Stefano has this potential ability to think. He has this dream to become the king. He never thinks of Caliban being the right ruler of this island. So is not colonization the very big part of this entire play? So at the same time, the expanded territories established by colonization created new places in which to experiment with alternative societies. These expanded territories were established by colonization. And these new places were the place in which to experiment with alternative societies. Shakespeare conveys this idea in Gonzalo's musings about the perfect civilization he would establish if he could acquire a territory of his own ideas of commonwealth. What kind of a kingdom would he like to establish? Even Gonzalo believes that if he stays here, he can have a commonwealth, a place where nobody has to work. His own different idea of what a state or a kingdom territory should be. This is all about these themes of illusion, magic, illusion, and colonization. I hope it has given you a big clarity in understanding the themes that are running behind. You can use these ideas in writing down the answers whenever there is any question which has any link with any of these themes associated. You can use all these points to clarify and give your view as an evidence to prove your point. Thank you and keep watching.